Welcome to the Rolling Forward podcast,
a platform where we talk about all things logistics.
Leading this discussion, you've got Brett and Nathan.
And together, we share a passion for the logistics industry.
Okay, let's roll into episode number 14. We're here, Brett.
Morning, Dave.
Morning.
Let's go.
And good morning, John Giles.
Good morning.
Welcome to the table. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you.
So this one today, where, you know, John, you're a professional driver here at SEQH, and more specifically, you're our driver trainer.
Driver trainer, yes.
Yeah. And the thing I love is that when you started with us, you were very clear to say, I'm actually not going to be a frontline driver, because I know that when I start doing that, that's what the company will send me down, and we lose the focus of what we're trying to achieve here. So,
correct.
You know, we'll dive into a deep conversation here, but I want to preface that, you know, part of our intention for this podcast today is to raise awareness for an industry issue we have right now, which is training and uptake of professional drivers.
Yep.
And what we as a company would like to achieve from anyone listening to this is, one, any driver trainers out there, they listen to this and go, you know what, that's a company I want to talk to and potentially go work for.
Yep.
And two, any drivers out there that go, hey, that's a company I want to talk to and potentially work there.
Yep.
That's the outcome we want to have from this conversation.
Other people can listen too, but
yeah, we'll allow other people to listen.
Happy.
You can let other people listen to this as well, friends.
Yeah.
But let's just start with a bit of intro about John. And the thing that I love about you, mate, is that you bring great professionalism to our industry and to our company.
Thank you.
The way you interact with our staff in the office, on the floor, behind the wheel, et cetera, and just the way you communicate and carry yourself. You got great experience behind you. You got a lot to share. And the thing that I'd really love to see in the future is you arm it up with more people around you, so you can actually coach the trainers that are then also coaching drivers, you know, up and coming, but also existing professional drivers.
Yep.
So thank you for what you bring to the table. And what I want you to start with is just an introduction about your career.
Well, it's been a long time in transport.
Yep.
30 odd years now, and I get it, not as many as some of the other people around the table, but I dare say Brett's probably seen a lot more changes than I have in the industry. I came on the scene, believe it or not, I was a baker, baking bread, and a gentleman came to me and said, well, if you can mix bread, you can mix concrete. So I then went and mixed some concrete for a while, and I ended up at a transport company with fixing springs and tyres and all those sort of things in the yard.
Yep.
And led to, you know, some driving, and in that company I had some great mentors and some great people around me that were prepared to put some time into me.
Yep.
And that's back then, that's what's required to learn that industry. And in previous podcasts where Brett said, yeah, as a young fella, he was on Dad's knee driving trucks around the yard and, you know, washing them on weekends and things like that. Well, yeah, unfortunately that we can't do those sorts of things anymore, which is a real shame. But, well, good and bad. But we can't do those.
it is a shame, John. That's a great breeding ground for engaged drivers.
Yeah, and I had some great mentors in that space. And basically I drove. I did a lot of weird things. It's a bit of a specialist of, you know, a new job turned up, so I'd be the one that get thrown at the job. I've ended up in some strange places, Fraser Island with some timber for Kingfisher Bay Resort. Yep. Over in Stratty we used to deliver bentonite, so when they would float the factory through the sand dunes, we'd seal the hole, so we'd take bentonite over there and seal that up. So that was really interesting. Had to disconnect the trailer brakes, because if you didn't, you'd push the boat away from the ramp when you were trying to take a trailer on the right. So we did some weird and wonderful things. But as I said, in that time, had some great mentors, had some great people. Worked my way up through that. Did night shift for many years, and ended up being a depot manager. Went west to Roma.
Yep.
Was a depot manager out there for the company, and ended up in Brisbane. Have a great family, and we ended up going back to the west for the children to finish high school.
Yep.
And now, 15 years later, looks like we're just about back here in Brisbane.
Well, specifically this weekend.
That's right, specifically this weekend.
And who's going to be the frontline driver?
That's correct.
That's you. So I appreciate the intro, mate, and it's important to do that because obviously our target audience listening to this one today is other trainers and also drivers. And so, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this conversation, it's good to understand your background. Just add to your intro, what has led you to be passionate about going down the driver training pathway?
In saying the intro, I've probably glossed over a couple of things in there that I did do that led me into that training sphere.
Yep.
So I worked as a trainer for dangerous goods. So I was accredited with Department of Transport back when it was the old Department of Transport.
Yep.
Had to go in and actually sit the test at Department of Transport and pass it. And you weren't allowed to have books, and it was all this to make sure you knew what you were talking about.
Yeah.
And I was actually in the steering committee from the 6th edition Dangerous Goods Code in the carry on to the 7th edition code. I was on the steering committee, or one of the people on the steering committee for that. So in doing that, I was involved in training. We developed a lot of courses, and that was around the time as well we started getting into load restraint and chain of responsibility. Sure. And you could see that, this, whether we liked it or not, transport was changing. And as I said, listening to your previous podcast, Brett, and the guys, in that late 90s, whatever, there's some big changes came through.
Yes.
As I said, I was on the road and saw the difference with the changing of the B doubles and the singles came along, singles out, B doubles in, and higher productivity. So that's where I got that passion for training, because our drivers, a lot of times, a lot of companies, mate, you can drive, you've got a license, there's a truck, way you go.
Yep.
And I was one of those guys out on the road with them. And, as I said, there's been plenty of TV shows and news shows that you don't know what was coming at you. At the night time you'd be driving, what's coming at you, how professional these other guys. So to supply training and to be interested in that training and try and raise awareness around that chain of responsibility, load restraint is very important as well. Yep. So that's really what drove me to potentially be that, interested and want to drive that.
Yep. And just for a second, do you want to touch on this question, which is, like, oftentimes change occurs from pain more so than pleasure.
Yep.
There can be a lot of foresight into pleasure and enjoyment and things like that in order for someone to go down a certain pathway. But most commonly, people go down pathways because they're trying to avoid pain or from having experience. No doubt you've seen some accidents and whatnot over the years. Does that come into play with also your passion of trying to train people and support them?
Very, very much so. I had a very close friend when I was managing a depot down here in Brisbane. I'd been talking to him that morning, and he went back up to Toowoomba to deliver a load up there, and the forklift came in on the other side and actually ended up with a bundle of timber on top of him and killed him. So that was a very hard day.
Yep.
And to know, some simple things that could have been put in place and would have been put in place and should have been put in place just failed. And in that case, that person was no longer with us, who I'd been talking to earlier that day. So that's just one of the drivers that this industry for so long ran on unsafe acts, probably.
Unsafe practices.
Yep. And just the natural thing of, when dealing with heavy assets and also dealing with people and other road users and whatnot, there's always the element of risk. Just people being more aware of what they're doing and also having those skills to be more aware of what's happening around them.
Yeah,
that's right. It's just never
situation.
When I was teaching my daughters to drive, we go out on the road and they'd be scared of the trucks. I said, don't be scared of the trucks. I said,
be aware of them.
Be aware of them, but don't be scared of them. I said, I'll be more scared of the other car drivers on the road because we don't know. Potentially the truck drivers have got a professionalism and some training around it, whereas a lot of those car drivers, they just don't. So, you have to be careful.
It's like caravan drivers, isn't it?
Very much so.
You go at the road with a caravan driver, you could get anything going on.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Don't get a professional driver talking about caravan.
No, you won't go down there.
Yeah. No, well, that's a good segue in, mate. We've got some issues in this industry around training, and there's three of us here on the table, and there's a contrast between each of us. As you said, Brett grew up with sitting on his dad's knee, steering the wheel and driving himself at the age of 10. And similarly, you've been given opportunities in the pathway where you can slowly come into the industry.
That's correct. And I think those pathways have disappeared over the last 20 years.
They've certainly shrunk, haven't they, John?
Yeah, definitely shrunk. And nowadays, probably the only way the really pathway that's there in the way we did it is if your family's in transport. That's probably right. The only way that's it.
Yeah,
that's right.
And in my scenario, like I started in my 20s, which again from generations beforehand, that's quite late in comparison.
Yeah.
And my opportunity really came from working with people like Brett, where you think back to when we started Logland. A lot of my training came from literally just doing loops at the yard when we were weighing boxes before we had our weigh selling, or then dovetailing it with drivers and getting experience on the road with them. But that's me in the environment already. So it's ever more challenging for those that are interested. But it's like, where do they start?
Okay. And that's what we need to get back to, some form of a pathway that we can provide people to bring people or advance people in the industry, because it just hasn't or just isn't there currently. As we were talking a little while ago around the table, when you go for your truck license now, you're taught or you're trained to pass a test to get your piece of paper to get a license.
Yep.
You're not trained on how to restrain loads and different loads.
How to operate. You're not trained on how to operate.
Yeah. Okay. So that's just one of the things that for people coming on, and it's up to the transport operator currently to wear that load.
Yes.
Of new people, and a company can only carry a certain amount of, let's call them green operators.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. So in your mind's eye, John, where do you think we should go now as an industry? As an industry,
we at this point in time we have to rely on the older drivers. We have to try and create some sort of mentor program or some pathway for those younger drivers. And as just off air, as we were speaking earlier, some of those older drivers are very good operators and so much knowledge that we don't want to see that disappear out of the industry.
Yeah.
But then they're potentially not good mentors, so they need to be taught how to be a good mentor rather than a good driver. We've got the good driver part.
Yep.
We need to create a good mentor out of that person.
Yeah, so there's a skills transfer.
Yeah. But as I said, the problem is at the moment is that the transport company is the person carrying that load. If you were to go to a client and say, we're going to have 2 guys in the truck and we're going to charge you a training fee or whatever, well, you're not going to have many clients for long, unfortunately.
Yep. I think it also comes back to individuals appreciating those training programs, because as you said, it's delivered in-house at the moment. That's where it's driven from. But it's individuals actually committing to companies and staying there for the long term as well, and not just getting trained and then jumping ship.
Departing.
Like I know, just geographically close to us. If I know Follamont Transport over the river, they've got an extensive training program they do in-house. And there's other companies. We'll talk about ours later on. We were in Adelaide a couple of weeks ago, and I think Simons Clark they had about 4 or 5 driver trainers. That are fully tasked towards supporting onboarding and also the continuation of existing employees.
Keeping skills up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It with the training and everything. Yeah, it's a great initiative. We need to create that pathway. The people need to probably see that pathway and see the advancement on that pathway. But again, we go back to, we can only have so many green drivers at one time, and if we don't have spots, we can't bring drivers through. So I don't know where we can accelerate that currently, because if we have a full complement of drivers, which would be fantastic all the time, there's no spots to bring the next one through at that point. So we do rely on that circular flow or people coming through to bring them up. So unfortunately, some have to go out the top to bring new ones underneath. But with that, as I said, some of those guys, like there's no reason when they finally decide they want to retire, that we still couldn't use them instead of losing that knowledge.
Yes. No, that's a good point, John.
Yeah. Why don't we talk about the things that we're doing?
Good place to start.
So for us, this is actually a few years ago we started going down the video pathway, and
the whole focus on training. We've got to train, and we've got to try to engage the other half of the population who aren't really playing
so
on the field.
It's that level of intentionality where we started generating these videos, and to the credit of one of our previous driver trainers, Dan, he was a part of a lot of those videos.
He was.
In generating content, so it actually helps the onboarding before drivers even start.
Yeah, it's good content that Dan did.
Yeah.
I'm obviously not as video worthy as potentially Dan was, but
you need to stop that.
That's right.
To be honest, we just created so much content, didn't we?
Yeah.
The era that you've come into, John, has been a lot about how we implement that, and how we also do a lot of continual spot checks and managing our existing drivers and whatnot, because a lot of that framework that we worked on with Dan is there.
Yeah.
Over time we'll need to update some videos and so forth, but the reality is doing a pre-start hasn't changed.
No.
Hitching and unhitching trailers, that hasn't changed.
No.
There's a lot of those functions, so it's then been about how to actually get that into the fleet and also to our existing drivers as well.
I mean, some of the stuff you guys have implemented through all of us, the wave, pre-start, etc. We've modernised a lot of that stuff, and that system is quite good and it's easy to manage. And with the introduction, that was a fantastic introduction of that wave pre-start system, because there was very little problems. The drivers could understand what was going on. We trained it, we toolboxed it, and it's a very intuitive system. So it was a great introduction, and we had very little issue with it. We're now rolling that out into the top loaders in the next little bit, so we'll be doing the same sort of training plan with that. So the technology plays a part too. And of course, some of those older drivers aren't as computer savvy as some of our younger ones, and a lot of them had no problem whatsoever. So it was a great system, great turnout.
And just to be clear there, what John's talking about is our transport management system. We rolled out so that our drivers have got tablets, and that's how the allocators are feeding jobs and so forth, which we've had for a couple of years. But more specifically, recently, we've got the pre-starts on that as well. So it's not paper-based. And it just allows the driver to also take photos and interface faster with our workshop.
That's correct.
Is the benefit we're chasing. So, again, that's been one of the things that you've worked on with our tech team as well, on how do we implement that into the fleet and support our drivers.
And also part of that as well is having that test area, test bed, so that we can actually train and play with the system. Instead of getting on and playing with the system, and all of a sudden we got containers going everywhere. It's just no work. But we can get in and we can play, and they can touch it, feel it, play with it. Before they actually step into the truck.
We've also done some collaborations with Volvo. So we've hired drivers in to go into their Volvo Iron Women program, which is a very new addition on what they're championing, and they're coming from the same angle of supporting industry to bring people into the industry.
Non-traditional participants in the industry, getting a bigger chunk of the female workforce.
There's some excellent women drivers out there. Make no mistake, they're probably way better than I'll ever be. But that's talent we should be trying to utilize.
There's a call out to female drivers. If you're watching, give us a call.
Give us a call.
No, we are an employer that is actively chasing more female participation across our company, and obviously the largest area for employment for us is professional drivers. So what we are open to is even flexibility around those roles and those shifts to try and make it work.
We can provide that with a 24-hour cycle.
I mean, the mining industry that went down that path a long while ago to introduce what they call it the kiddie shift or whatever it was, where mothers would drop the kids at school, go out and drive the morning trucks for the day, and go back and pick the kids up. So there's certainly a potential pathway there that we could utilise.
There is most certainly,
and that's where industry needs to change that lens as well to go, well, how do we support all aspects of personnel and make it workable? To get the freight task done.
That's right.
So talk to us, John, about what do you think makes a good driver trainer?
Nerves of steel. Look, it's like anything.
The willingness to not touch the steering wheel.
Yeah, right. I suppose being able to read people, for a start, and being able to instill confidence in the people that potentially aren't that confident to at least get out there and try and have a go. And if somebody's willing to have a go, I'm always happy to assist that.
Yeah,
but as I said, it's trying to judge a character. Yeah, like I say, you're the first person. The first time I see a person is when we walk down to step into a truck to go for a drive. So it's a bit like the Uber driver turns up and you open the door and go, okay,
I hope he can drive.
What are we going? What are we in for here? And what you got to remember is, like, we're putting them in a vehicle that's worth, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the last thing I want to do is ring Brett and go, I've got a problem.
Yep.
We want to people just to read people, them to be open and honest with us. So you need to be empathy and be able to talk to them and in a way that they'll respond. Yep. And we get the information out that we need. Again, if they're up front and say, I've never driven this, I've done this, well, we can work around all that. Because as I say to them, there's no tricks, there's no traps. We're just here to go for a drive and let's come back from that. Again, some people are going to be green as green, and as long as they're up front with that, as I said, the problem is we can only take a certain amount of those people at any one time. So
you can't overload the workforce with
that's right
with fresh.
And obviously we'd love to get 20 experienced 8-hour drivers all knock on our door and want to come in, but that doesn't happen. So every person that comes in, unless they're absolute full bottle, is going to need some kind of work in some regard. So working out what that is, and that is potentially even down to fixing that issue right then and there when you take them for a drive. You can fish it, and then reporting back through to HR what's required so that we can get a good overall picture from the interview and from the driver assessment, etc. What really we're going to get from that person.
Yep. And just to add to complement a couple of things there as well, John. So what I'm also taking from that is we also want to see someone that's a great communicator with the driver, but also back to base. To give feedback and go, for example, it's like, well, whilst this candidate showed great promise initially, when I was actually giving them a bit of advice or commentary or whatnot, they weren't actually receptive to listen.
That's right.
So that's a red flag for me to go, well, that's right. If we have other circumstances in the future arise, are they going to listen? Are they going to pay attention? It's that attitude tweak that you're trying to...
And don't get, and in saying that too, you also got to take into account the situation we're putting them into. Like, we're going to bring them into our workforce.
Yep.
And it's must happen, has to happen, keep moving, go. And that's a bit daunting for some people. And of course, we have people who are English as a second language.
Yep.
And some of those people are great workers. But we need to be able to monitor that and put them into that situation in a controlled way, so they're not going to freak out and go, well, I can't work here. Because if we control the introduction and let them get used to what's going on, they fit in perfectly. And we've got many cases of that here.
Yep.
Where they fit in fantastically and do the job.
Yeah,
right. Simply.
I'm just thinking of a recent scenario in our business that I'm not sure specifically who, but I think it was maybe yourself and Carolina working on. One of the feedbacks we got is that there's a bit of confusion on when people come into our yard, our hubbing yard, all the different terminology.
Yeah.
So it's then how do we funnel that together so we can teach someone quite promptly? Because yes, it can be overwhelming when we've got a fast-paced environment. We're moving a lot of containers per shift, and there's all this talk on the radio.
Yeah.
And people are feeling like they're getting the road because they're not up to speed as fast.
Yeah. That's one of the things when we take them for a drive. I quite often will put our channel on and just have a listen, and don't get overwhelmed by this. And when you first come on board, steady them up, talk to them, and tell them, hey, we're new. This is what what do you want me to do?
And remember your fleet number.
Yeah.
Yep. If all else, just remove
your fleet number. You might get called.
Yeah.
Yep.
What do you think about driver simulators? John, what role do you think they have?
Well, as driver simulator is a great tool, but it's unfortunately not the be all and end all. It would be a great, I was going to say, it would be a great tool for driving assessment because you can very much control the environment.
Yes, good.
But as we said, how do you show me you can reverse a double on a simulator? That becomes one of the issues we have. Or how do I train somebody to back at a double on a simulator? That becomes very, very difficult in that. But it has its use and it has its place. I mean, pilots use them for how long before they... Although I don't think they back a plane very well either.
No.
But that's the way it goes.
They get a bit of assistance.
At least they don't crash them very often.
No, well,
And the other thing I was going to say about a simulator, it's a whole lot cheaper to crash a simulator than it is to crash a
that is a point. That is a point. But we don't aim for any of that.
That's right.
So that's not an issue.
Yeah. Yep. And so when we flip the table, what does the ideal driver look like? And I'm not looking for the typical answer of experience and rah-rah, but like let's look at the candidates that are typically coming through the ranks at the moment right now. And I want to gear this a lot towards attitude and whatnot, but what are you looking for when a driver fronts and says, I want to have a career?
Well, it's really interesting. Like I'll walk down the back with a driver and I could normally pick it within about the first 5 minutes of how this driver potentially is going to go. But in saying that, I have been caught out, and I'm happy to be caught out.
Yep.
But generally within the first 5 minutes, and it's how they approach the vehicle, okay, and how when you start talking about it and that interest or lack of interest. When they get themselves up in the seat, you can see when they sit in the seat and they straight away start setting themselves up and things like that. You can pick the ones generally, that either have had some or no experience. If they haven't had any experience and they say that, that's fine. We go through a different process and change the tact in with which we do it.
Yep.
But we still want to get that same the best outcome. So, as I said, generally within about the first 5-10 minutes, I'll have a read on, where we're going with the driver.
Yeah.
But look, unfortunately, one of the hardest things, or one of the most difficult things we do is we have to reverse into a lot of places with a lot of different combinations.
Yep.
So reversing is one of the biggest things that we have to do here. So that's one thing. Every test we're going to do, we're going to get you to reverse in some way, shape, or fashion.
And just on that note, like anyone residential, like if you think with a residential mind, most blocks are getting subdivided and getting chopped up.
Yep.
The same thing's happening in an industrial focus as well, where things are getting chopped up and we got smaller and smaller, tighter and tighter locations that we've got access to.
That's right.
So your comment about backing is really important.
Yeah, and as I said, I came out of the oil and gas where big road trains.
Yep.
And when I say big road trains, it's the long pull in the middle, which makes it far easier to reverse. To come down here with these little tiny pulls between them, and then the single axle. Yeah, it's a whole new level of work, and then pull them in and out of different yards.
But it's still attitude though, John. Like I think of there's a time when, for example, I was pulling out of our yard next door, and I had to do a right hand turn from where the truck was parked previously to then go into the yard and get boxes on. And I as I was doing the turn, I could tell the drawbar was getting quite tight, and I just kept getting out of the truck. Like, I just figure, like, the time it takes to get out, to stop the truck, apply the brakes, get out and have a look, and do that a couple of times versus if I actually make contact, make damage, and what the actual implications of that are versus the time. It's like, just get out of the damn thing.
It's all the acronyms, goal, get out and look.
Yeah. And it's like, I get it. It's annoying. But I do the seatbelt, apply the brakes, jump out and whatnot. But it's like,
I'd much rather have the discussion with somebody as to why they took 10 minutes longer to do the job than why I'm now down taking pictures and writing reports.
Of damage. Because
I'm really against writing reports.
Yep.
That's not my thing.
No, it's exactly. So it's that attitude that we want to see people come to the table on as well. That care about the role, that care about the equipment, and care about the outcome we're trying to achieve. Because in our industry, like a lot of industries, but like our industry, we're here to serve importers and exporters.
Yes.
And ultimately, we are all consumers.
That's right.
So in some way, shape or form, we've all moved our own cargo at some point.
Everybody. Yeah.
Every single body. So attitude, and please one more time.
To be completely honest at the moment, we're getting the last couple of months, we've had some really good applicants, and we've had some really good people come through. So whether something's changing in the industry, maybe it is, maybe it's a good thing.
Yep.
But we've had some really good applicants in the last couple of months.
Yep. The other thing that I know our HR team are doing with a lot of intentionality is getting really clear on what does that ideal caliber driver look like. Again, a lot from that attitude lens, so that we've got that really rigid screening process before it even comes time to you doing an introduction.
Yep.
And just trying to get that candidate pool up that more aligns. Like Brett and I, we've gone through quite a significant cultural journey over the last few years, and that started with changing some heads in our management team.
Yep.
To change the business in a slight different direction, that ultimately gets to the point of less damage inside the fleet.
Yep.
Higher percentage of people turning up to their role.
Yep.
Every day.
Yep.
And a higher percentage of better outcomes for our clients.
Yep.
Because that's what we're here to achieve.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
But I mean, also what we're doing here, and Brett's testament to that is we're looking at all different new, and you've talked about on previous podcasts, new combinations, higher productivity combinations. Yep. And, as I said, there's more weight.
And that means more skill, John, doesn't it?
That's right. And that's the juggle that we're going to have moving forward. As when we move down to the island, the potential is we're running, Super B, Super A, whatever. And that's where we need that experience to come through, because unfortunately those guys coming out of a training program from HR to MC, I don't know.
That's not a suitable. No. That's not a suitable transition, is it?
No, it's not.
So why don't we segue in, Brett, to let's talk about RTOs for a second, because we've ployed over this for a number of years as to whether we go down this pathway, and we've had affiliations in the past, and then one's fallen over, and and I know in the past we've also had Dan that we've helped license him up so that he can actually sign off on drivers getting their MC license.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, Nath, RTOs are the gateway to that process of training people formally.
Yep.
To achieve licenses and stuff, and that's an area we'd love to partner with some people in that area. But the whole, how do we when someone comes out with an AMC license after 2 days in a truck, having driven a rigid truck previously,
and think they're amazing.
And maybe with a couple of tickets on themselves, but that process doesn't set themselves up for success. It gets them a license. Yes, they can drive down the road.
But that's when the hard work starts.
That's right. They need reps. They need reps on the board.
Muscle memory. That's right. No, exactly right. So that's what the industry's got to think about: is how do we get a system to turn people out in a reasonable time frame. Yeah, it's going to be a huge long time frame. Yeah. But where they've got resources, they've got some muscle memory.
Yep.
It may not be the same muscle memory that you've got.
Yep.
But it's some muscle memory about how you do things.
Yeah.
How you hook trailers up. How you check tyres.
Yep.
How you restrain a load. Where you need to go and look if you're not sure how to restrain a load. We need to be developing that, I think.
Yeah.
In the industry.
I mean, I saw on, was it LinkedIn or somewhere the other day, there's a QTA truck driving apprenticeship webinar, which is coming up next week, I think, which might be interesting to listen to. So I don't know, haven't gone down that pathway or what an apprenticeship would entail, but that's potentially probably a terminology anyway.
Yes. At least it professionalises and gives order to a process. The other thing would be is, does industry get together? So, for example, we operate a large fleet of MC required licenses. Some HC, but largely MC.
Mostly MC. That's right.
There's also other transport companies in the industry that are only operating HR or less combinations.
That's right.
So, is there a collaboration that companies that aren't competing against each other, however they can collaborate together? So we can support that organisation in their marketing efforts to get drivers into the industry with MR licenses, HR licenses.
Yeah, the tricky part is, no, probably we want those HRs to graduate to MC. So
that's what I'm saying. So that's the collaboration. So we actually we network with that company. We help advertise to throw them in air.
Yeah.
After a couple of years, they come to us. But that's the collaboration piece there.
Yeah.
Companies like Follow Mod Transport are set up where
they've got a spread of rigids,
that's right,
spread of semis, and a spread of.
We've
so
got
they can
HR truck.
That's it.
So to bring people up from HR,
it's slow.
To be a long line.
I think the term is glacial, John.
Yeah. So you think of someone like Rich's Transport is probably quite similar to us, where maybe collaboration with another company to help get some runs on the board.
Yeah.
Get someone a few years.
Help train people for them too. Yeah.
On the proviso that person's going to jump up and do some line haul in the future.
Yes.
Again, what's the government going to? Is the government going to bring something to the party to give you a framework around?
Yeah. I just don't think we can rely on it. I think industry's got to tackle it.
What I've just said about the apprenticeship, maybe that's an exact case of that.
Yeah.
That's part of that apprenticeship. Is you start in that company and with the HR and work through.
I'll segue into a frustration I have whilst also celebrating something we have in Toowoomba. Is like we've got a great trainer in Toowoomba, Owen.
Yep.
A lovely bloke, and one of the great things about him, besides his experience, is just the sheer fact of his communication style, his communication with the drivers, but also his communication back to management on how the drivers are going, and he's exemplary of what we're looking for.
Yep.
This leads to my frustration, and this is where industry need to have a bit of a uppercut of themselves sometimes, where we're trying to train people and we're trying to onboard people, and ultimately we're doing this so that we don't have damage to equipment, but more importantly, we don't have injury on the road to driver or other families around
or your family upcoming.
So one of the things that frustrate me is that over the years we've had some drivers that have come to our door in Toowoomba and have said, I'm attracted to coming to work for you because you've got a training pathway. Versus I started with a position with this other company, not to be named, and they just gave me the keys and sent me, and I've only got single experience, very, very minute road training experience. They gave me keys to an A-double and sent me down the Toowoomba bypass. Like, short of swearing right now, it's like, that's just immensely frustrating.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. If you swear, Nathan will end up on the cutting room floor.
We're setting them up for failure.
Yeah,
it's just so dangerous.
That sort of behaviour is That's
and the problem is with the failure in our industry is expensive.
Yep,
very.
That sort of cowboy attitude's got to change. And the reality is, and we can't rely, in my opinion, we can't rely on government to subsidise this or subsidise that. We've got to take this on ourselves and provide solutions. And what I'd be asking for, the people that come to our door, they come to the door with the right attitude. They want to stick around. That's to be frank. I don't want to train people for an extended period of time, and then after 6 months they go and jump on someone else's door for 50 cents.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a bit of respect that's got to go there too.
Yes. Yep.
I fully agree. As I said, we just need to create that pathway. Yep. Whether we like it or not.
Yeah. So, the things I'm proud about is that our onboarding process, our recruitment process and what we've invested in our HR team, that's all in-house, is a diligent process to help from the start. Then we've got our video training that people can do at home or inside our depot. And then we've got driver trainers like yourself, John, and mentor drivers. And that's still a process that we're continually trying to refine and get better. And the way I can see that getting better is having people put their hands up and saying, I want to go down that pathway. I want to coach and support other people. And how do I do that? And then we got to provide that training.
They want to be dad showing the young fella how to get things done. And there's like, now that I'm a grandfather and I have a grandson, that's what I'd like to see. I want to be able to show you the young fellas and your grandson or your kids, whatever you're going to show them, and teach them. That's what being parents and grandfathers and all that's all about.
It's about. That's right.
Yep. Passing it down.
Yep.
100%. Well, I think we've rabbited on a bit enough.
We've kicked this ball around the park.
We'll kick this
Yeah,
around. My takeaways from this and my encouragement is, driver trainers out there with the right attitude, we're interested to talk to you.
Yes.
Drivers in general looking for a pathway forward.
Yep.
Across and numerous positions.
Yes.
We're interested to talk to you.
Again, don't be frightened if you haven't got a lot of experience, but just as I said a couple of times, we can't be top heavy with
No.
a lot of.
We also need a good healthy balance of really experienced operators to come through, and our view is how do we pair those together so that the experience can complement the inexperience.
Yep.
Yes.
And set up for generations ahead.
And if you're one of our drivers out there that's interested in being a mentor,
Come talk to John.
Yeah.
come talk to us.
Yeah, or yeah. And probably the last thing is, we're still kicking around this topic of the RTO. So any RTOs listening out there that have any collaborative ideas, you're welcome to come to this conversation. And probably the last thing is just that topic kicking around of industry actually collaborating together.
Yes.
Put the walls down and what can your business do that might help another transport business? Because I believe what you throw out comes back in some form.
Yeah, you're right, because often rigid positions will have a life cycle.
Yep.
That people just move on from because they've been there, done that, and it's on to the next thing.
So let's celebrate that.
Recognise that and work out how people can assist you to put people in at the front end.
Yeah.
So when those people do leave as a natural consequence, you've got people coming in the front end.
Yep. And just how you're talking there, Brett, reminds me of I was listening to Jennifer's podcast, Slicing Through the Noise, and she was interviewing Justin, I think it's Justin Casey, the CEO of Adventure Operations. And he was talking about the topic of let's celebrate the fact that people leaving your workplace. Now, when you hear it like that, it's like, that's a bit alarming. But what he's actually when he defines it in detail, what he's talking about is his belief is when you bring someone in the organization, you should have the view of making them better before they inevitably leave. People are always going to leave. They're going to move to another role, or they're going to retire or something. But people are going to leave out of the employer's business at some point. So we may as well make them bigger, better, stronger, faster, whatever that means, than when they first came into your place of business. Yeah. So that's
a good strategy.
That's a topic there of, as you said, a HR driver, most commonly, they've got a life cycle.
That's right.
We may as well provide a strategic pathway thereafter.
Yep.
So I'll put a call out there. Any companies out there that just operate rigids, come talk to us.
Yep.
Let's use our HR team and armor up to try and market and help you get drivers.
Yep.
And then we collaborate together so that a couple of years later,
we got a place for your drivers to go.
We got a place for the drivers as well.
Yeah.
And then at some point in the future, they go to WA and they hook up, 10 trailers and
That's well.
Yeah.
Very good.
Anyway, thanks for the efforts you bring to the business, John.
Thank you.
Thanks for the discussion today, and let's hustle forward and make some magic.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thanks, lad. Thanks for listening to our podcast, Rolling Forward.
We love sharing content for the logistics industry, so please also connect with us on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram.